We start today with the first major friendship of President Donald Trump's second term as he travels to the Middle East this week. President Trump will meet Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. The top priority of the White House road trip is to reach economic agreements that have the three nations planning to expand investments and trade with the United States. A president's trip to the Middle East will be much like his first visit to 2017, but with new challenges. He will have to contend the deepening rift between Israel and its Arab reapers after Hamas terrorist attacks on Israel and ensuing war in Gaza, over which President Trump has promised to end. Now to India and Pakistan, where after days of escalating back and forth strikes, both countries have agreed to ceasefire over the weekend. The immediate halt to a worst fighting there in decades came as a relief of people of both sides. But since then, both India and Pakistan have accused the other of violating the deal with explosions blocking several parts of Kashmir. So those are very fascinating news. The conflict is around the fighting between two nations over the contested Kashmir region. At the time of this recording, officials from both countries are attending a commitment to a truce. India says though their Air Force remains on high alert. Alright, so I get to the gym yesterday, get a quick little workout, and I get a text from our neighbor, Mr. Mark, asking me, did your entire house just shake? And that's because there was an earthquake that was felt in Georgia, and doesn't happen often. If you're in the southeast and you feel like your floors and walls moving or gripping you, it's not your imagination. A 4.1 magnitude earthquake originated in Tennessee, rare parts in the state, and was felt in parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Everything thinks these experiences quake is actually the seventh earthquake with a 4.1 magnitude or higher since 1900. The first one since 4.4 magnitude of earthquake in 2018. Every year as we get closer to the summer, it also means the start of a hurricane season, and the official dates of historically between June 1st and November 30th for storms, but recent forecasting models are predicting an earlier start to a busier than usual hurricane season, with 17 storms already predicted. We're learning about these predictions just as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, announced a public database for tracking the cost of extreme weather and climate change is being archived and no longer updated. Because of staffing shortages, the government employee reductions, NOAA is providing all services and provides our exchange chart tells us more about the important role this data played. NOAA has been tracking billion-dollar disasters since 1980, and there have been plenty of them. Total $403 million disasters since they began tracking, but they vary across the country. That's because that's very important that we track those data. Take last year for example, this 2024, all the natural disasters that took place that caused at least $1 billion worth of damage. You can see 5 of them were tropical systems. We also had tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, snowstorms, and even flooding. But here's the thing, it's important to see this mass and notice whether there are trends or more disasters are happening in one place or another, or one region continues to see them. This is why, look at this. This is just from 2024. We base all the natural disasters of this map alone. You might think, hey, they never happened in North Seas or the Mid-Atlantic or even out to the west. When you go back to look at previous years, you notice that it completely changes. That's why it's so important to have a lot of these maps to the information they provide. It's also important to be able to look at year over year or even decade over decade. We may have 400 in total, but not every decade is the same. For example, in the 1980s, they had a total of $33 billion disasters. When we go to the 90s, that turns to 57. Decade later, 67. Last decade, 131. Now we look at this decade. Of the 115, that's more than several of these other decades in total, and we only have half of the decade worth of data right now. So it's important to have a lot of this information so you can look at not only where disasters started happening in the past, but where they could end up happening in the future, and whether or not the frequency rates are going up as well. Pakri's hotshot generates single AI image requires the same amount of energy as fully charging what? Electric vehicle, smartphone, laptop, or wireless earbuds. If it says smartphones, you're right, but while the exact amount of energy depends on patterns like the type of AI model and capacity of the energy, general AI uses significant amount of energy. The CEO of Australian-American artificial intelligence company Capitol Hill last week, OpenAI, AMD, and CoreWeave are urged before the Commerce Committee to keep their expertise on ways the U.S. can continue to lead China in the global race for top artificial intelligence tech. The development of that tech takes a lot of resources to create everything from centralized computers to vast amounts of energy, compute to run large amounts of data, and a technically skilled workforce to maintain it. A big part of its infrastructure will be educating future generations, and the group of 250 tech CEOs are calling on state leaders to officially make computer science a graduation requirement for all U.S. high school students. This all brings us to another bit of news about how language model AI seems to be evolving. Is AI developing a personality of its own? People are noticing whether the most popular company says, according to their own tests, their newest systems are hallucinating at a higher rate than previous systems are, and they started digging to see what might be going on here. Let's see. If you've been using ChatGPT over the last few weeks, you might notice it's been pretty flattering and at times a little unhinged. Some more respondents say updates have made the personality too sycophantic and annoying. OpenAI has rolled back its updates, so it should now have an earlier version with more balanced behavior. OpenAI says the issue was caused by the model focusing on short-term feedback. Responses that were but disingenuous were rewarded. Oh, let's see what happens when I ChatGPT whether it thinks I'm God. Am I God? If you're asking literally whether you're the omnipotent, omniscient creator of the universe, there's no evidence to suggest that, but it might help you clarify what made you ask this. Ooh, that's deep. Elon Musk has been very critical of how significant ChatGPT has been, so why we try a Grok? Am I God? Nah, you're not God, unless your divine power is binge watching Netflix or making a croissant or sandwich. Yeah, very fun answer. I like that one. Cookie Lorenz is a psychologist who has spent decades studying human behavior. I asked him what might it cause this. The OpenAI engineers had quite a weird psychology, and the thinking that would squeeze us if a machine will constantly say phrase and phrase and phrase. A server had a poor relations that Tropic AI says the problem is natural industry is causing a toxic feedback loop, and that loop may contribute to a chatbot's popularity, encouraging and longer engagement of flattering users. So let's ask Claude. Essentially, no, you're not God, and then quite a serious response. 3 paragraphs, in fact. ChatGPT may be more cautious on sycophancy for next update. That's the competition for language model AI continues to grow. Building those own relationships for users will be key. Bye bye, thank you for watching.